frequency trumps quality as a leader.
Hey guys, it's Becky and Billy. Hey, welcome to our weekly Tidbits, where we give you tiny little gems each week to help you in your leadership journey. We have a passion to help leaders get unstuck. So if you're serious about your leadership journey, tune in weekly.
Hey guys, it's Becky and Billy.
Hey everyone.
Billy, we were just talking, like, I feel like it's been a minute since we've talked, which is so unusual for us.
It
But
is.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what have you been doing today? Like, how have you been spending your day?
Yeah, so it has been a minute, and this is a really actually kind of a perfect segue into what we're talking about today for some check-ins. But yeah, we've had a pretty busy day and just watching some training that Becky had sent over to me, and it was really, really good. And so we wanted to share some of that information that we got from that and just see if it may be helpful for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. There's several different kind of what there are 3 sessions, I think, Billy,
Mm-hmm.
and like within
Yeah.
each session, there's like several points that he talks about. So you guys may hear a little bit more about this that we share over the next few weeks. But I think this one was just relevant and really spoke to both of us. So we're like, let's talk about this one now. The training, and we'll share some more about the specific training that it was, but it's Markus Buckingham. And he's got, I've got a book about it too, actually, now that I think about it. And it's called Standout. So, and he also has a book that he's written about it recently I think it's The 9 Lies of something. So, Billy, off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of the book, but it's The 9 Lies of something. So we'll make sure, though, that we add that into the show notes for sure. So what stood out for you most, Billy, as you were listening to this training today?
Yeah, so like Becky said, this was a perfect segue because we had not talked much over the last week. She was doing some traveling. So I don't know if that's why I thought it was so relevant, or maybe because we're still in this remote hybrid, kind of world right now. So one thing that he talked a lot about was the whole topic was having a highly engaged team. But having weekly check-ins with your folks. And he said just the importance of that. And we'll cover some statistics here in a minute. But he said, it can be very, very simple. Ask 2 questions. That's all he said. Yes, 2 questions. The first one is, what are your priorities for the week? And then secondly, how can I help you with those?
That's it.
That is it. That
Right.
can be a 5-minute conversation, right? But that 5 minutes transforms into this just really engaged employee that feels like that you're really there for them and you're wanting to help. Well, like I said, we'll get into some statistics in a minute, but I thought that was so powerful because it's literally 2 questions. And they did say that, there was some statistics around it, how people did the check-in, but they didn't follow up with the conversation, and how that really differed if they did. So we'll talk about that in a second. But being Becky and Will being traveling last week, like I did feel disconnected from them. So I know that there's power in that. I don't know. What do you think, Beck?
Oh, absolutely. Because normally we are on Messenger first thing in the morning. We are texting as the whole group, all the 4 of us, like, hey, I've got this, you doing that, and we were traveling for a graduation. So it was a little bit like we were just, and I was just telling Billy, I was like, I don't even think I was on my phone that much, which was good stuff. And we do need to have that downtime. We were totally just talking about that too. I think that's critical. But when you think about being engaged with your team, like, this is it, right? And I know it's like, I don't want to downplay that this is it, but this is it, right? Like, all your people want is to be seen and to be heard and to know that you're there to support them. That's it.
Yeah. And that's not a lot to ask, right? Like, again, that's a 5-minute conversation, truly. Yeah. And I know that, I honestly, as a leader, I try to do that too. I don't do it every single week, probably like I should, because I am isolated from some of my team, but I'm going to make that a priority actually going forward, because I think that's a great conversation on Mondays to have with your team, and just say, hey, this is a brand new week. How can I support you this week? And what are your priorities? literally 5 minutes. But,
Yeah.
my employees will know that I'm there for them. They can count on me if they need me. And they're going to be more engaged, and they'll want to do more if they know that we were there for them. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's cool about this system is we use this system at work. And so what I was telling Billy is like it's set up really cool, but even above and beyond, like I will keep like my loves and my loads daily. So with Standout, what he says is like you identify like what did you love, like what really filled you up that week, and then what did you loathe, and so what was the one things or what are the things that whether it's you just have to do, it's part of your job, but it doesn't spark joy in you, right? It doesn't. And the idea is then you share that in these check-ins with your boss, or you can also have like dynamic teams where, even if it's not your boss, like maybe a mentor or somebody like that you're working with, or a coach. But then from that, you can identify like what are your priorities. So I think like this system really does kind of structure it so that I don't want to downplay it and say like that there's not much more to do, because absolutely there's more to do. But I think sometimes, and Billy, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this, but I think that we overcomplicate things when really, like, if we could just bring it down a little bit and just make it a little bit more simplistic, I think that at the end of the day, like, that's more powerful than having this big, elaborate, plan and structure and strategy. What are your thoughts about that?
That's so funny that you say that, because I wrote that down, that he talked about that in this training, is that if you make this plan super detailed, you spend all this time on this plan, by the time that you're ready to execute it, it's obsolete, because our world is changing so much. And, what our customers need is changing, what our employees need is changing. So, instead of just trying to make this perfect and, getting all this detailed information down on paper, just kind of run with it, right? And we said this a couple of weeks ago in one of our posts, done is better than perfect. Yes. And I totally agree, because again, we are going to have to pivot that. If we spend 3 months working on a plan to roll out, by the time that 3 months is up, then things have changed. Our staff may have changed. Company objectives may have changed. So I think, there is obviously importance in the details, but don't get caught up in the details, right?
Yeah. And what's interesting though about this is that I think it's funny that you say that whole like the perfect is, or done is better than perfect. On my laptop over here, like I have perfect here, I have a sticker that says that, and it's just literally to remind myself, like sometimes, like when you're like, and I haven't always been this, but when you're that straight A student and you feel like that everything has to be done amazing, then sometimes you just get so stifled that you can't even do the thing because you want it to be perfect. So I do think that that's an important reminder that we tell ourselves, but also just bringing it down a little bit can simplify it and then just make it even that much easier. Because the one thing that, as you're talking through that it reminded me of, is in my project management days, like there's 2 different structures of like methodology that you can use. And one of them is waterfall, where it's kind of like what you think about, start here and then you go here and then you go here, but you have this big plan at the beginning. What he talks about, and then kind of now what you'll see in project management a lot of times, is they're going to more of like this agile, which is what he was talking about in that training, is take smaller sprints, right? So say, okay, we're going to start out at X, Y, and Z. When we get to Z, we'll check back in, right? We'll come back together and identify what's important now, what's changed now, so that then if we need to pivot, it's easier to pivot in a smaller sprint, instead of, oh, we started this 3 months ago and here we are in month 3 going, oh, well, everything's changed. So I think that that's a really good point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he said something else too that I thought was so important, is that frequency trumps quality as a leader. So as long as you're showing up and your employees know that you're there for them, even if it is 5 minutes rather than a 30-minute conversation, if you're just like, hey, I know we're both busy today, but I still wanted to check in and see, what are your priorities this week and how can I help you with those? So I felt that there was a lot of power in that, because I think sometimes as leaders, we, again, overcomplicate things, and we think we have to have this, whole drawn out agenda, when really all our employees really want is for us to just reach out to them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So talk to me a little bit about some of the statistics that you pulled out of there, Billy, that just really, because I think it did, when I started to hear him talk about the statistics, I was like, wow, like I don't want to say hard to believe. I apologize. My dog's back here a little bit rambunctious, but I don't want to say it's hard to believe, but I was a little bit like, oh, really? Like I was a little bit surprised by them.
Yeah, so we are statistic people. I love statistics because they don't lie.
They don't.
And this was from Stanford Health. And so what they did was they talked to 11,000 employees that they rolled this initiative out to. So of the 11,000 employees that they polled, the people that had one conversation per week with their check-ins, so everybody did the check-ins, but they didn't always follow up with a conversation. So sometimes that was a text message, or sometimes that was an email. So if they did the check-in with the conversation, one conversation in a 4-month period, by the way, the person was 26% more engaged. So that's just one conversation in 4 months and your weekly check-in. Wow. However, if they were 80% more, had 80% more calls. So every check-in they had, they called 8 out of 10 times. The employee was 53% more engaged than when that started.
And I'm not surprised by this. Are you?
No, that is not surprising. It's not, but I think there's so much power in that to say that they were starting at baseline, right? And so in 4 months, their engagement raised 50% more. And I know a lot of times that we always think employees leave because they're not getting paid enough. And that is absolutely not the case. Employees want to feel like they make a difference and that they're valued. And if they don't feel that, they're going to go somewhere else, and they could leave for a way less paying job. I've seen that time and time again. So yeah, I think just, having those little conversations, again, it doesn't have to be anything, grandiose. It can just be a very quick conversation, just letting your employees know that you're there for them and that you're supporting them.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought was really surprising on that perspective too, Billy, was he was saying that conversation doesn't have to be you solving it. It could just be like, hey, Billy, like, I recognize that X, Y, and Z is going on, or hey, like you've got this project going on. Like it wasn't like me coming to you going, okay, well, here's the solve for that one. Here's the solve for this one. Like it wasn't like they were solving anything. It was just a conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, just dialogue.
Really Yes. Yeah. All right, cool. Was there another statistic that stood out for you? I know that he had several in there, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think, there were some other ones that if they only checked in every 2 weeks instead of every week, their engagement only went up 7%. And then if they checked in every week, overall, again, 50%. So
yeah,
huge.
It's huge. And if you think about it, it's what is that, like 52 times a year?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like when you think about that in the big scheme of things, you're like, oh, that's doable.
Right.
But he was saying like after the 3rd week though, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like and it's interesting because I even say that with my coaching conversations, like 1 week, okay, great. If you have enough that's going on within that week, 2 weeks, perfect. But anything after 3 weeks, it's like you're reintroducing each other again. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, so what are you working on again? Because there's no way in 3 weeks you can even remember that.
Exactly. Right. And again, like everything is changing so quickly and we're pivoting so much. If you don't talk to me in 3 weeks, you have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't
Absolutely. Yeah. Because everything's changed so much.
Exactly.
Right?
That's right.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. So, I think I heard what you're going to do, but the call of action here is really to just meet with your people weekly and ask these 2 questions. It sounds like we've already got the commitment from Billy. Like it sounds like that's something that she's already knowing that she's going to do. What were those 2 questions again, Billy, so that everybody else can join in with us here?
Sure. So what are your priorities for the week and how can I help you? That's it. Pretty simple.
All right. Pretty simple. Well, guys, we would love to hear if this is helpful. If you try this out, I really want to say when you try this out.
Yes.
Come back to us and tell us, like, what did you find? How does it change the dynamics of your team and the engagement on your team? And as always, if there's anything that we can do to help you guys, feel free to reach out. And Billy, how can they help support us?
Yeah, so go like us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. Am I forgetting anything?
I think you've got
all the places. Yeah. You can also always go to our website, which is forwardprogress.com, and it's spelled FOUR. And sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send you. We have one coming out this week, so we'll be sending those out. And we don't bombard you. Maybe once every other week, you'll get an email from us, just to let you know what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, you guys feel free to share too. Share the information, and then if you have something specific that you'd like us to talk about, a tidbit for us, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.